Hello, Martin Tucker here. What I'm going to talk about in this video is how we can use this adapt process to help us manage and cope with some of the maybe additional stress or anxiety or emotion that we might be feeling at the moment associated to everything that's going on in the moment with COVID-19. It's not just relevant for this situation. Evidently, I think because of what's going on, because it's so unique, and it's having such a big impact on so many things in our lives. Our whole lives have been turned upside down. There's a lot of relevance to it now, but regardless of whether COVID-19 is here or not, it's a process that we can use when we feel we're getting perhaps too caught up in our red emotional brain, and maybe we're creating some excess worry or anxiety about a situation that has happened in the past, and we're using our memory to go back to think about that, or potentially could be happening in the future, where we're kind of projecting forward and imagining some outcomes which, if we were in our red brain, they're going to be quite catastrophic outcomes, and probably quite pessimistic in their viewpoint. And so I'm hoping that we can talk this through, and I'll give you some insight into how you can use it to coach yourself to a place that might feel a bit calmer, maybe a little bit more in the moment for you, so you can stay in the present more, and focus on some things that will help you to get some better outcomes, almost regardless of how this whole thing plays out. It's really important that we focus on some things that give us a better dialogue back to ourselves, a better feedback loop. And that's about controlling the things that we can control, so that ultimately we can try and operate in a way that doesn't feel quite so emotionally draining, and is kinder to ourselves, both from a mental perspective and also a physical perspective as well. So just to talk through this process first, and then I'll give you some examples of where I've used it for myself. So the first thing is getting to the point of acceptance. Getting to the point of acceptance is really important when something has happened, or when we're projecting forward to something that might be happening. Because if we don't get to the point of acceptance, we're always going to be holding some emotion, and that emotion is going to be really colouring and infecting our thought processes. And typically when we're in that frame of mind and it's red brain activity, we jump to some conclusions, and our planning and our taking action is emotionally charged in a negative way. Emotions are important because they give us motivation, and I'll talk about that in another video. So we don't want to ignore what the emotions are actually pointing towards. But when we start getting into excess worry, and we're going round in circles, and we're just creating sort of layered thinking, and particularly about projections of things that are going to happen in the future, where we just don't know what they're going to be, but we're making those things up in our mind, and it feels really, really real to us, and that can be quite destructive. And it's really important about past events as well, that we can get to the point of acceptance, because, and I know this is really, really obvious, but we just can't turn back time. No matter how much we would like to, we can't go back in time and change something that has happened. No matter how damaging that's made us feel, how upset we are with it, we can't do that. And we run the risk of either being in anger or frustration or sulking, and having a sort of a mindset and an emotion that is really negative to ourselves and also other people around us. So to get to acceptance when we're in our red brain, there might be a few things that we can do. Well, the first thing is to have an emotional outpouring of some description. Actually to exercise the red brain and get the emotion out. And now that could look like this. It could look like this.
Can you give me a minute? Thanks.
Or it could even look like this. So having had the emotional outburst, something else that we might do to help pacify the red brain is to compromise and tell it some truths, to almost kind of feed the drives that part of the brain has. So if you're anything like me, I had a holiday booked up for this time of year, and I'm sure lots of us have had to postpone or cancel those holidays. So I've had to say to my red brain, look, we'll definitely go on holiday when we get the chance to, when we see things loosening up and it's the right time to. And that's the compromise. And by the way, look, the truth of this it's not just us, it's that everybody is stuck and can't go on holiday at the moment. It's not a poor me situation. And actually it's a lot safer to be here. And for my red brain, that's a good thing, right? Because it's actually all about safety. So having got to the point of acceptance, what we can then do is deliberately decide to shift our thought process forwards. And we might use phrases like, come on, look, shit happens. If we're being French about it, we might say, c'est la vie. We might also say, as my uncle would used to say, that's just the way the mop flops. My dad would say, life's not fair, get on with it, ginger. And so we're deliberately shifting our thought process forward. The assess phase then, that's about looking at all the facts and looking at really what is going on and the truth of the situation, rather than basing our decision making and our thoughts upon the assumptions and the conclusions that this brain will jump to. Our red brain jumps to conclusions on very small bits of information. And with so much information flying around at the moment and lots of rumours and fake news that might be around on social media, that's very easy for us to conjure up these pictures and these stories that I was talking about. So it's important that we really assess the facts of what's going on. And when we can then see what the facts are and what the actual truth is, we can then go into planning mode and look at, okay, what's my plan then from this moment forward to try and maximise my opportunity to get the best action? And so from a pipeline perspective, that might be a recovery plan of some description. And what's really important there is there's so many things, and COVID-19 or not COVID-19, there's so many things in our lives that we just have no control over. And we certainly don't have any control over COVID-19 at the moment in terms of what's going to happen with it. And so what's really important is to pull back and focus on the inputs, the things that we know we do have some control over. So that might be things like, our activity plan from a sales perspective. So what's my outreach going to be? Where am I going to focus that? Is that going to be on existing accounts and try and find business within my existing accounts and building relationships there? Or am I going to look and go and prospect new opportunities, new businesses? What can I do in terms of the way that my value proposition needs to shift and potentially change based upon what's been happening in the marketplace? I can spend some time focusing on that and even practicing that, working with some peers, some colleagues, with my boss on the questioning that's needed, the stories that are needed, perhaps some of the insights we can deliver to a customer. A big thing that you'll see lots on LinkedIn about is about having a schedule and about managing our time in the most effective way. And also managing our other resource, which is our energy. So making sure we're really planning in the right time to go for our one walk a day. What we're putting into our bodies to give ourselves energy, and making sure we're trying to get as much sleep as we possibly can do. And also what we can do is we can't control what this red brain does, in terms of the emotions and how it reacts initially. But what we can do is we can manage our response to that so that our red brain doesn't and our emotion doesn't control us. And that's about looking at what's going on in here, and that takes a bit of time and energy to sit down and actually do that. So we can create a plan, we can create a schedule, and then we can focus on the inputs. And then evidently what's really important is we take action against those inputs. We have to execute the plan. And what's really good about that, if we're focusing on things that we can control, that gives us a really good feedback loop. It's good for our self-esteem, it's good for our self-regard, because we're focusing on the things that we can control, and we're not focusing it and therefore judging ourselves on the things that we can't control. And in sales, we can never control whether we make a sale or not. Whenever somebody else is involved in a conversation, we're not in control of the outcome of that 100%. We can influence it, but we can't control if people buy from us or not. And what we can do on a daily basis then is come back to this and look at how did I do against what I was trying to achieve. And if you don't get it right first time, look, that is absolutely okay. You're not going to get perfection every single time. It's a work in progress. So please don't beat yourself up if you've created this plan and it doesn't go to plan. That's actually part of the learning experience. So I hope that's been useful for you. I look forward to posting a few more videos in the next few days. Take care, stay safe, and speak to you soon.